Today, I'm going to show you two shots that were made out of one animation. So our student has just put the poster on the wall, and I wanted to show her sitting on the bed, but my animation skills are not fantastic, so I decided to flip the order of shots I wanted to do and show her close-up after she sat on the bed, and then a wide shot as she's sitting on the bed, showing the whole room. So here we are with the first shot storyboarded. It's a close-up of her, just her face only. I had some notes. I apparently had repeated pictures that I purchased in the room and had them in two places at once, so I had to fix that. And another note about doing wind in the tree. And I will show you that all later, but let's look at the second storyboard for this set. So here's the second storyboard. She's sitting in her bed, taken in the room after she's completed setting it up. Let's go to the shots. So here we go. She looks around her room, takes it in, takes in a deep breath, and relaxes. This is the first time we see the full poster where it's be positive, and you see the rest of the room. The lighting doesn't match from when I placed the bunny before, but I figured it's been later in the day, and she has finally finished setting up the room from earlier in the day. Gonna look at it one more time. So the first note, same trees as we've seen before in every other shot. I just took one tree and repurposed it outside the window so you can see it blowing in the wind. And I will note this skin texture for the girl was one that I created myself. I followed a tutorial about doing skin textures. I will put a link in that in the description. It was well worth it because the skin texture that came with this character was a little bit more made up than I wanted it to be, and I wanted her to have freckles and be a little bit younger looking than the model was when I first purchased it. Once again, you can see her hair flowing. Not the best haircut, but I did the best I could. And there we go. She relaxes. You can see her hands slide down her legs. And as I look at this now, I realize her shoulders and arms there are not fantastic. But hopefully when you're watching this, you're just taking in the whole room and not nitpicking like I am now. Let's look at the Blender files. So starting off here in the Blender file, I want to point out on her shirt, when I first purchased it, it wasn't very thick. It didn't have that sort of thick collar and depth to it. So I actually came in and added some thickness to it. I basically used a solidify modifier to make the shirt have a little bit more depth to it and make it more realistic than it did when I first purchased it. I don't think I had it done this way in the earlier scenes. It was a wider shot, but once I got up close and personal with this shirt, I felt like it needed something a little bit more to it. So just another modification I did to this character. And again, this is just a quick shot of her looking around the room, breathing, taking in the room, and enjoying starting college. So, and as you can see here, this animation ends at 197. The next one will pick up at 198 because I did a continuation of this same shot. And if you go back to the beginning and you look at this as she's moving her head, I tried to make the hair swing naturally. It keeps going when her head stops and then follows behind and again keeps going when her head stops. And then her shoulders kind of go up as her eyes close as she takes a deep breath. And you can see the animation continues on here, even though that's not the section that I rendered. So once again, I used one file in order to render the whole scene, and I just picked two different camera angles in order to render it. And as you can see, right over here, the fingers apparently went through the leg, but the angle I use for the next shot, you don't see it. So it doesn't matter. And let's go look at that file and angle right now. All right, so as I mentioned, this is the exact same file, the exact same setup, and the exact same animation. It just continues from frame 198 to 300. So all I did was switch from this camera here to this camera here for this shot. And I generally give my shots their own file in case I need to change something. It just makes life a little bit easier. And as you can see, this is the first time we're seeing the bee. So you can see some keyframes. I started my camera move before I rendered it. So when I come to it, it's in motion already. That goes for the girl character as well. There are keyframes here that happen outside the render zone. Let's see if we can find one. Be on the hand. So there you can see the hand has keyframes outside of the render zone because it is all part of one big animation, just two different camera angles. You also might notice, look, just a random picture down here. When I imported the pictures, they came as part of a pack, and I moved them in and moved them around, and apparently I just moved one out of the way because I didn't need it and forgot to delete it. And there is my tree outside the window, just sort of floating in space. This would be a second story dorm room, I imagine. And you just see a little bit of it outside the window. So it's just fine to just be floating there. And that is it for these two shots. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you how I set up an entire classroom. I'll see you then.